If we truly subscribe to this idea of what starts here changes the world, maybe we start by having conversations that are not easy to have. This school song starts almost at the university's inception, and it goes to the present day. So you can tell a story about the University of Texas through the story of the song. There are parts of the history that are really hard to stomach, painful at certain points.
If we are to embrace the eyes of Texas, we need to embrace all of its history, all of its tradition and legacy, however difficult it may be.
As they always say, know the science of something. This was me knowing the science of the eyes of Texas. And this was a way to dig deeper into the research.
I think a lot about how the Eyes of Texas debate and discussion really blew up. And the conclusion that I've personally come to is that it's something very visible. And it's something that, is ingrained into every part of our culture here at UT. I think it's literally on my class ring right here.
The Eyes of Texas is not the sole issue here. For me personally, I think this issue on the Eyes of Texas is just a symptom of the whole problem of institutionalized racism. This is about finding the truth.
In the world we live in, it is about wins and losses, but it's also about leadership. And what the athletes did, that showed a lot of leadership. 18, 19, 20-year-old kids standing up for something. They felt a charge, they were convicted, they saw what was going on in the world. This is what people should understand. If you call something out, that means you care a lot about what that something is. That means you want it to be better. You want it to be its best. We understand that on the practice field all the time. Some people say, how do you let a coach scream at you? When the coach quits screaming at you, that's when you worry about it. As he's screaming, as he's coaching, passionately coaching, he wants you to be better. He wants you to get better. And so the student athletes, that's what I saw in it.
As a program, our coaches kind of just said, okay, however you want to respond, we'll respect that. And that was fine for a little bit until it wasn't. Everything really came to a head at the OU game. It was a brutal game, and we were standing out there, a lot of us without our horns up. Fans were screaming at us. When we went to get our bags, they came down to the sidelines and were screaming in our faces. People were really starting to get attacked on social media on the team. I couldn't understand why anyone would put a song over people, and that's what it felt like.
Just as a student of color, generally, I look back at the history of the university and, no, I can't see myself in any of that. And I know Black students, feel about it on an even more intense level.
Any other race doesn't really have that connection to it. But Black students and Black faculty, Black alumni really, really have to sit there and ponder, is this something that I can support?
The University of Texas was, to put it bluntly, a Jim Crow university in a Jim Crow state. Anything that emerged from that background could be said to have racist origins. Now, does the song, absent that, independent of that, does it connote anything racist to anybody who doesn't know anything about the origins?
They all performed songs that they borrowed from other universities. They didn't have a song unique to Texas. It was a small school. We're talking about 1,500 to 2,000 students, 20 people in the band. The University of Texas didn't have a good reputation yet. If you really had money or if you could do it, you went to the private schools in Texas.
So the idea was, this is very much about us showing people by our example that we are a scholarly institution of merit. It's pretty clear from the evidence, the eyes of Texas are upon you is exhorting people to do their absolute best because you are being scrutinized. You do not have the benefit of being at a university that has a long tradition. Students were referred to as barbarians, and the faculty were looked down upon.
The eyes of Texas are upon you because Texas, for the students, Texas is subsidizing your education. Texas is looking to you for great things.
One of the things that we need to make sure we understand is this, the melody is I've been working on the railroad. And that is a widespread, universally known song.
Sinclair was not a musician, he was a writer. So he couldn't have written the music himself. He needed a song, he needed a tune that already existed. The idea of stealing a tune, well, the American National Anthem is a stolen British drinking tune.
I had looked at the tune of the song. I've been working on the railroad and those lyrics, those racist, horrible lyrics. So my expectations about what I would learn and find out about the true facts about the Eyes of Texas, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect anything good. The biggest eye-opener about the history of the Eyes of Texas was that that song and those lyrics were not written in the so-called Negro dialect. Unlike the tune and the song I've been working on the railroad, as I looked for my own truth about the University of Texas, Eyes of Texas school song, I couldn't find, I could not identify anything in the lyrics that were racist to me.
I have no reason to think whatsoever that there was anything in terms of we're surveilling you, we are watching you behind the scenes or anything like that, or that it was intended at all in the direction of black people. They just weren't part of the audience. They weren't part of the people he was thinking about because there weren't any black students. And the fact that it was performed at a minstrel show was almost happenstance. So Sinclair and Johnson tried another song, The Jolly Students of the Varsity. And they premiered that not at a minstrel show, but at a student talent show where no blackface anywhere around. And if that one had caught on, then that would have been what became the Eyes of Texas. It was a fundraiser for the track team. It was happenstance that the Eyes of Texas premiered at a minstrel show. That wasn't part of the design. That wasn't part of the intention.
But there was an underbelly to the 40 acres, the state of Texas, the United States of America, of real rampant racial segregation and just policies that prevented all Texans from having access to the supply chain of power and privilege and prestige and educational attainment that was the 40 acres.
This was a racist society, period. That is the history of the United States.
When we wrote the report, there are parts where we talk about, look who's not present here. So when I think about the origins of the Eyes of Texas, or our football team being all white until 1969, or the band playing in minstrel shows, it's demeaning. It says so many things about the status and the roles of African Americans at that time as perceived by white people.
People sang the Eyes for decades when the country was racially segregated, but because of racial privilege, they didn't even think about that racial segregation.
The two most serious uses of the song for protest reasons was when Governor Ferguson, vetoed the university's entire budget. A band of co-eds marched past the governor's office window, and he was standing there. They sang the Eyes of Texas at him. And then when Homer Rainey was dismissed by the Board of Regents in 1944 as the University of Texas president, the regents were afraid that he was going to push for racial desegregation of the campus. The students went down to the Capitol and again sang the Eyes of Texas as a protest song to the legislature and to the regents. The thing about the song is its organic evolution. It wasn't a song that the Board of Regents hired a songwriter to write an official anthem for the University of Texas at Austin. You know, it really is from the roots up. It's from, it started with the students, and it evolved over time to take on all of this institutional meaning.
One thing about songs is that in a certain way, they're new every time somebody sings it. It's not like a building. It's not even a statue. A statue is there, and it is the creation of the sculptor.
If you have the statues of Confederate generals and the President of the Confederacy out on your main lawn, a pathway between the Capitol and the Tower, that's transmitting a message as well. They were racist. There's no question about it. The papers exist that show that. People admitted it. That's not the case with this song. The Eyes of Texas is a completely different story here. But they're both symbols. One of them, I think, we can be proud of.
I didn't sing the song when I was a student, but I came here in 1968, a time of protests for civil rights. I came to the school because I received a scholarship, but I felt not necessarily connected in every way to the school. So if the facts revealed that the history of that song was racist, I have to say that it would not have surprised me. The surprise for me is that it wasn't.
One thing that's interesting to me about the Eyes of Texas is that it never sort of stayed static, right? It evolved, it changed. It had this incredible role during the Second World War as a rallying cry. It was at one point, the 1920s, people wanted to become the state song. One of the moments that is probably most impactful for me is Barbara Smith Conrad in the 2000 commencement singing The Eyes of Texas. Understand Barbara Smith Conrad's story, that experience of being one of the first Black students here and having the opportunity to be in the opera taken from her because of people in the state legislature who felt that she should not perform opposite a white man. Having her come back in 2000 and singing that song is so incredibly powerful to me, what this can mean. To quote Barbara, this is my state. I'm claiming this. I put in the work. I contributed. This is mine as well. I am a part of this community.
I've played in the alumni band for 45 years. When we play The Eyes of Texas, there's so much emotion on people's faces. They remember playing it when they were in school. And it just brings back that memory. That's what The Eyes means to me. When I play The Eyes, I feel like I was when I was a student. I'm marching into the stadium with 80,000 people or so, just screaming their heads off. Anybody that's been in the band lives for that memory.
This was an unquestioned part of our common culture as Longhorns, certainly as lettermen, football lettermen, but the conversations that I had more recently were really about, okay, what does the Eyes of Texas mean? What is its place? It's a shared emotional experience. It goes without saying, it goes without explaining. Well, sometimes you do have to examine and look at and say, okay, why is this important?
The song then becomes a lightning rod. People can map so much onto music, these ideas about who they think they are, who they want to be, who they were, in ways that we, quite frankly, don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about how blackface minstrelsy has shaped Broadway today, right? Has shaped ABC sitcoms today, right? We don't really want to have that conversation. But instead, we can talk about a song. We can all sort of argue about a song, and that feels somehow disconnected. If I win this argument about this song, I have won a larger argument. But we're not really ready or willing to have that larger argument yet.
I think there's a lot that we kind of sweep under the rug as a society, partly because it's hurtful and hard and difficult to come face to face with that. This is an exercise in unmasking and ensuring that we do not erase that history, but instead face it head on, recognize it for what it is, and learn from it. We wouldn't be fully coming to terms in an authentic way with our identity as a university if we did not embrace and reflect on that very tough, ugly history.
We are doing this inventory that is long past due. Once we articulate that story, that's warts and all, shortcomings and all, it provides a basis to tell a larger story.
Guess what? Our closet is out. Honestly, that's a relief, to be honest with you, because no one's perfect. I think some of the reason our country has struggled with this for way too long is because we try to sweep it under the rug. We don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to talk about the facts that these things that happened back in the day and the fact that there's still room for improvement. We instead try to avoid the conversation. We've had the tough conversation now.
the song evolves, its meaning evolves as we evolve as a society. And I don't think that it should be dismantled or done away with. But like everything we as human beings create, they serve their purpose. And I think if the song isn't serving its purpose, we need to figure out how it could best serve its purpose.
So we still have work to do. And if we could do that work around a reimagining of what the eyes means to all of us and all those separate camps, but then also together as just Longhorns, I think we can do something special.
The Eyes of Texas can mean different things to different people. It should mean different things to different people. What I think we can share are values that underlie the Eyes of Texas. There are very few things that have broad power to bring people together. In particular today, you have to appreciate that for what it is and the possibility I think that represents.
It is a very compelling way to build that community where we're all singing in unison in a way that perhaps in other times in our lives we're not.
Progress is made in conversation, and deeper understanding of each other is what will drive us to a more equitable and just society, which is what I want and what I hope everyone else wants too. I know it's what our committee wants, definitely.
We are a university where our motto is, what starts here changes the world. If we really want to hold people accountable, we need to be that change and spark that change into these individuals and into the university as a whole to really create a space that is welcoming to all.
A conversation and a historical reflection has been initiated. How do we show progress and how do we show accountability? We're all going to have the opportunity, I think, to rest and sit with really complex issues. And one of them is the story of this university.